with an ambience sound suggestion if anyone wants it. It's on every map, or I plan to have it on every map, so you can have the soundtrack of the level if you desire.
I will be using.
I don't know what kind of cunning scheme this is pulling, but I had to close the show transfer window because it was popping up a bunch of Java errors. It didn't want me to. It didn't want me to see the 10,000 kilobyte file size of that one file.
What will happen now? Java errors. That's usually good stuff.
Oh no, not Java errors.
It'll be fine.
I'm gonna be back in 2 minutes because I forgot some water. Sorry, I'm an idiot.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Sit back down, Rahal.
I closed the show transfer window and everything was fine.
I'll sit back down then.
Sit back down. It's okay.
Just wait here.
Have a sip of water or something.
Have some cider.
You have some cider. Ooh. What flavor? Like normal cider?
Apple flavor. It's French. I bought it in a big bottle.
Ooh.
It had a cork in it.
A cork in? That's like fancy cider.
It's also alcoholic, so a little bit drunk. But
I approve.
But I'm sure this will be just fine.
87 minutes later. Is this so you always know the yelling portal?
I don't become a sad drunk.
Well, I mean,
Alistair Blackcloak is there. He's sitting at a table and he challenges you to a game of gin for all of the marbles. What marbles?
You can get the entire dungeon if you beat him.
Oh my god.
He's like, oh, it's yours. See ya.
This turns into like a dungeon management simulator. I didn't realize like that was the story we were telling.
The rest of the campaign, spreadsheets. Spreadsheets as far as the eye can see.
No, I mean,
adventures are
so
raiding
like,
your...
What, like Forsaken Throne for Manaki, right?
What if we, I mean...
We'll just station Manakai's character to guard a hallway or something. Here you go, give him a riddle.
Spreadsheets, you say, yes.
Spreadsheets.
I don't
the
pay
spiritual
for
successor
spreadsheets.
to Dungeon Keeper.
Oh, man.
Beware, the Lord of the Land approaches.
Yes.
If you defeat Alistair Blackcloak, you get turned into a big beating heart. Imps appear all around you.
Keeper.
I did not realize this was my epic destiny.
Oh, there you go. I'm a dungeon heart. That's my epic destiny. Oh,
Alright.
let's see here. Is everyone back? Is everyone present?
I think so.
All right. Then let us get this show on the road. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the first session of Dungeon of the Mad Mage.
Yay!
Yay! As played in D&D 5th edition. I will be your benevolent DM Rahal, and we have a star-studded cast with us here to plumb the depths of Undermountain and come back with amazing treasure or horrible death. We shall see. As a PSA, I have never run a mega dungeon before. This is a first for me, and also a reason for why I wanted to try my hand in this. I have in the past looked at things like the Tomb of Horrors and like other similar things, but Dungeon of Mad Mage just piqued my interest. I think Alistair Blackcloak is a wonderful villain, like a very cool character, and what he does with Undermountain is quite intriguing to me. So I have thus vowed to take us all on a journey through all of this, and I will do my best to illustrate the wonders and horrors of Undermountain. And to join me on this fantastic quest, ever downwards, we have Halldamir, my partner in crime, playing
Forever
an
and ever.
elven, yes, playing an elven Duskstalker, Dusk Archer,
Gloomstalker.
Gloom Man.
Broom wielder.
Gloom
Yeah,
Broom
Gloom-
Wielder. I'm gonna
Gloomstalker.
dust this place. I'm
Dark.
done with it.
Yep. And we have, of course, Manaki, who is playing a Barbarian Minotaur.
A Minotaur Barbarian.
Yes.
Get it the right way round, man. Come on.
Well, whatever. We have we have Sheik playing a Tabaxi rogue. We have Sailor Scout Grimth playing a Dwarven Paladin of the Oath of the Ancients. And then lastly but not leastly, but beastly, Valkybear, playing a Forge Cleric / Abjuration Wizard who's also Dwarf. So, yeah, there we go.
Perfect.
So, yeah, we shall see what awaits us. But let me set the stage. Your characters have arrived at the Yawning Portal over the last few weeks or so. The tavern itself is quite a famous landmark, and it has been no trouble for any of your characters to actually find or approach this place. Anyone in Waterdeep can readily point it out to you. It has been around for a very long time, and all of that time being run by the proprietor Dernan, a famed and grizzled adventurer who is said to have ventured into Undermountain himself a long, long time ago and returned with incredible, fabulous riches from down below. And also the secret of immortality, because it doesn't seem to age since he came back. Dernan has settled down, opened up a tavern around the entrance he used so many years ago to get down into Undermountain, and he has named it aptly the Yawning Portal. The tavern is one of the adventurer hotspots in the city. There is brave souls going down into the depths with some regularity, for sure. It is also a place where you can find the most oddest, strangest creatures lurking about. Dernan doesn't seem to be too picky as long as you pay for your drinks in advance and you keep it civil inside his tavern. Outside of the tavern is indeed the city of Waterdeep, the city of splendors, one of the most famed cities on Toril, and certainly the biggest and most important city on the Sword Coast. You can do or find most things in Waterdeep. And if the adventurers, for some reason, want to venture out into the city, that can certainly be an option. But for now, you have all come to the Yawning Portal seeking something. It is as if the dungeon is calling to you. There is something down in its abyssal depths that draws your characters to it. You have to go there. There's simply some allure or desperate need to call you all down there. And before we sort of set this up or like started this evening, I asked all of you to write a short little introduction, how your character ended up in the Yawning Portal. So I am thinking we start off by doing that, and then we take it from there, really. It would also be nice if you gave a very short description, like, of your character, his like the looks of him or her, a little bit maybe what they do class-wise, and then describe to me what happened as they first entered the Yawning Portal and what they've been doing these past week or two or so. They have been here waiting for a party to get together. Do we have? All right, Valky, go first.
Already in there.
All right then. Give me a sec to. All right. After a short trek from Daggerford south of Waterdeep, Beldas Forgesworn arrives in the tavern on a wet night. Taking off the plate helm on his head and wringing out the moisture that had long seeped into his grey beard. At first glance from the patrons of the Yawning Portal, this is but another warrior-clad dwarf, a cleric or paladin, no doubt, judging by the blazing forge of Muradin engraved upon his shield. However, as the dwarf stepped further inside, the more curious would aptly notice that, armed as he was martially, at both of his hips hung two books, one softly glowing with the dwarven rune, and the other a monstrous tome of otherwise mundane nature. Ignorant to prying eyes, Beldas had other concerns. Arriving at the bar, he orders a flagon of ale, asking for Dernan by name. Not once to mince words, he takes a sip of his drink and regales him with his tale. Years had passed since the clan hall of the Forgesworn had been overrun by a sudden invasion of creatures of the dark, pilfering historical and financial wealth as they swept violently through the masses, slaughtering indiscriminately. The High King and his guard, overwhelmed and overrun, gave up their lives in order for his heir and Beldas, named as the chronicler of the Forgesworn, to escape with a few men and women. far from the north they ran, pursued by the stragglers of the invasion to wipe the clan from existence. This dogged journey would lead them at Daggerford, a place where craftsmen alike can eke out a living and survive. With the honor and legacy of the clan fallen upon Beldas himself, he would tutor the young heir for many years, consulting sages and the like about the whereabouts of the stolen regalia of the Forgesworn, so that the heir could once again take up the mantle of High King and forge their clan anew. Using their last remnants of wealth, the regalia was tracked to somewhere in the dreaded Undermountain beneath this very tavern. To do this, Beldas told the heir, they would require time and caution in order to reclaim their former glory. The boy listened, but as a young boy, did not heed those wise words. After a journey, Beldas arrived home to a note from the fool boy, who had convinced the remaining rabble of dwarven soldiers to accompany him in a glorious expedition to Undermountain to reclaim the lost riches. Left desperate and with little choice, his feet led him here to this very tavern, upon this very stool, drinking upon this very ale, which he took from deeply, finishing his story. Given Durnan a description of the lad, in fact, yes, a dwarf and his group of similar look descended into Undermountain a month prior, but have not returned. Disheartened by the news, Beldas decided to stay at the inn to gather information. In the days and time coming, Beldas would give a condensed version of his tale to any who would listen, asking them if they knew or saw the poor boy. From their words, an expedition into Undermountain was dangerous and folly to the highest degree, if unprepared, and even so. As days passed, his desperation grew, until he knew that he would have to brave this journey for heart and home and for the glory and honor of the Forgesworn clan. His daily routine of asking questions now dared to offer his partnership to delve the dark deep below. Salvation had come, in the form of interested parties for their own myriad reasons. As the party itself formed, Beldas himself remained set in his grim determination, the history and tradition of his clan resting stoutly upon his shoulders like the enduring weight of a mountain. That is his introduction.
Okay, thank you very much. Who wants to go next?
I would. If that's all right with everybody.
Go.
So, I have the thing. Don't worry. So, Eleran Moonstar. A wood elf, a noble, a prince. He comes from a kingdom of Tabaxi. He is a ranger of his noble house that prides itself in helping in the defense of its kingdom in the far and sometimes forgotten realms of the woods by Moonsea, north of the Sea of Fallen Stars. He and his family rule over the small kingdom that is constantly beset by monsters of all shapes and sizes. For hundreds of years, if not almost a millennia maybe, they have fought these monsters back and back again, and the royal household helping in the ever defense of its people. His grandfather, the oldest surviving member of his family, had similar powers to Eleran, who in fact has the ability to almost meld into the darkness. Though this troubled his family, it seemed to not pop up too often until his grandfather decided to train his grandson, who showed these similar powers, in the ways. And it wasn't long before Eleran outstripped his grandfather, and he could not be taught too much more. And it was in this discussion in the woods outside of the kingdom that his grandfather let slip that In fact, he knew where these monsters were coming from, or at least the source of where they were coming from. And that was in the Undermountain, and in his eternal shame, he could not bring himself to go there. Eleran brought this to his family and brought this to the advisors of the kingdom. All sought peace and to question whether to go or not. Eleran, seeing the suffering of his people, decided to take actions into his own hands. He wouldn't wait around like so many elven kingdoms did for decades, centuries. No, he would go out and go and fight. He would go and find the source and finish it. So, he left. He left in the middle of the night, and he travelled all the way to Waterdeep, where, of course, as it said, is easy to find the Yawning Portal. And as he steps in, he looks around. Obviously a wood elf, and perhaps not even that out of the ordinary, considering the other clientele. He goes straight to the bar and speaks to Dernan, offering the typical fees for the 10 days advance to stay there. And as he looks around, he spots Beldas, Valky's character, and his celestial owl. Eleran being a firm, having a firm faith in Selune having her favoured animal as the owl. A celestial owl, at least, seemed to him as almost a sign. So he approached the dwarf, and as the dwarf was keen enough to share his story, Eleran shared a brief description of his, and that he wished to go in there to save his people. Perhaps something that they both had in common. Eleran was keen to leave quickly, although could see the benefits of staying and waiting. A larger group, a more rounded group, would not be such a terrible idea. So he sat in the corner as much as he could, trying to stick to whatever shadows he could find, and he waited. And that's Eleran.
Alright. Who is next? Alright.
Don't jump in.
How about Manaki?
Alright, I had expected to go after GrimthR, but
If you want, you can do that.
ideally.
Alright.
Doesn't matter hugely, but Yorgos probably would be one of the later ones arriving.
GrimthR, would you mind going?
Sure, I can do it. The Yawning Portal is a temporary stop for adventurers and vagabonds of all sorts in the cosmopolitan Waterdeep. But for some, Durnan's Tavern is more than a landmark. It is a second home for generations who have visited it over the past 180 years. Into the Yawning Portal walks a jovial dwarf, armed with only an easy smile, his armor only the twinkle in his eye. He wears well-fitting clothes, a green doublet embroidered with silver, beneath an open leather jerkin. Ankle-long breeches lead down to fashionable buskins. There's a silver amulet around his neck, that of an unclad female elf, with long hair, dancing before a full moon with a bastard sword. He lumbers to the bar, a few nods and waves as he goes, but his eyes are set on Durnan. His twisted right leg almost drags the floor. He waves to Durnan with a gnarled hand and leans in with an unmangled ear, because today is the day this dwarf will figure out how to make his next best drink. My character, Taerin of Waterdeep, has been coming to the Yawning Portal for decades. He's run afoul of a few of Durnan's business practices. Durnan has a deal with the local Church of Tymora for healing services, but Taerin just can't quite help himself in his generosity when adventurers come up the well in such tragic condition. Compared to what Timora's clerics charge, Taerin only asks for a tool, or a favor, or a good sword, or armor that may be used to fight evil. Taerin has been absent from Waterdeep for some time, as he has often been. He has been far more accustomed to travel than he has been to staying, but in recent times he has lingered around and has been a more frequent occupant of the Yawning Portal. The gallows and grim humor of this locale, as adventurers are roped down into the Undermountain, is not one for him, but he tries to appreciate and understand it all the same. Taerin of Waterdeep, my character, is a level 5 shield dwarf paladin of Ilustry. He loves life and lives it with an uncommon passion, a zeal, a zest. He's here in the Yawning Portal with an interest in going down into the Undermountain for 3 reasons. He is a wanderer, has been, for so much of his life, and he wishes to see what lies beyond the Yawning Portal. Second, he wishes to accumulate enough wealth to build his own ship, a seafaring vessel capable of traveling not just above ground, but also in the waterways of the Underdark. And Durnan's every tale hints at the incredible riches that are down there, if one could but recover them from the Mad Mage. Third, and most prominent, Taerin wishes to spread the teachings of Ilustry to all who would listen within the dungeon of Mad Mage. He will carry her message to all decent drow down there. And as an addendum, Taerin is well seasoned. He's got a gift and ability to look at folks and discern, oh, they're probably not going to do that well without me. And this grumpy, dour, Beldas Forgesworn, yeah, he probably needs some help.
All right, then. Manaki?
Yes. A different day. A cold day in Waterdeep. Wind blowing in from the sea. You see chimneys, smoke bellowing from the many chimneys of hot fires as people are staying inside enjoying warmth and company. It is that kind of day. A massive figure, a wanderer, clad in bulky metal plating and a thick direwolf fur cloak, walks determined steps down the cobbled streets. In one hand he holds a long halberd, while the other is clenched into a fist. His fingers digging into his palms painfully. His posture is marked by excitement, anticipation, and no small amount of tension. Inside the yawning portal, the wind bellows as the door is opened, cold air blowing away some of the pleasant smells of food and ale as the newcomer enters this place. This, the gallows of the willing. Faces turn to see who has arrived, and a few calls echo, closing the door. All who see the figure know instantly that he is here to challenge the machinations of the Mad Mage, as so many have done before him. The figure steps further into the light, and what most might have thought of as a half-orc or perhaps a massive human is revealed dramatically as what most would call a monster in his own right, a Minotaur. His horns prominent in the dim light of lanterns and candles, his nostrils heaving in heavy breath as his eyes move across the patrons nervously. A stillness enters the place as uncertainty rolls across the many here to spectate. Then the large figure strides to the bar, slumps down on a stool, and orders whatever the keep would suggest for someone who has been too long from home. Durnan, the barkeep, nods to the newcomer, and serves up what he serves to most these adventurers. As easy as that, the stillness is banished, and the figure begins to blend into the menagerie that always seems to fill the yawning portal. The figure eats, then he drinks, sighing in satisfaction as he lets the thick wolf cloak slide off his weary shoulders. He turns on the stool, looking around the room. No longer the center of attention, he gets the sight of some adventurous soul dancing along the edge of the yawning portal, telling a story of a battle with a wyvern somewhere below. Yorgos smiles to himself, tension leaving him. Yes, this was the right decision. These are his people, and this will be his home above home. When he first emerged into this place, it was as a lost creature from below, knowing little of the world or of his own purpose. Now, after having traveled for a year, he has seen pretty much what the world has to offer, and he has returned. The dungeon below is, after all, the only home he remembers, and it seems almost fated that he return as a conqueror where once he was a defender. A foe hammer must have foes, after all, and where could better foes be found than in the famed halls of Under Mountain? Over the next couple of weeks, we see Yorgos drink, we see him arm wrestle, we see him lift a drunk halfling on his shoulders while balancing on the edge of the portal. We see him pull the rope, hauling people from below. We see him listen, particularly and intently, completely enraptured in the songs of the bard and the tales of Volo, the scholar. We see him again and again ask the barkeep to tell and then retell his old tales just once more. We see him in mornings sit in a calm corner reading a book too small for his fingers, bearing the blazing blade of Tempest on its cover. All the while, Yorgos stays at the yawning portal. His resolve is strengthening. This is what he is meant to do. These stories, Volo and his adventures, the dangers of the deep. What goal could be more worthy than to challenge these tales as one of his own? With him, however, he needs brave companions, as those in the stories. And looking around, it seems that a group is coming together by a table with some dwarves. And that is how the Minotaur joined the party.
All right, thank you. Sheep.
Last but not least, I hope. When Snapping Branch entered the yawning portal for the first time, she thought herself appropriately dressed, blend in. Glossy leather armor over comfortable yet fashionable clothes. Her tools stored safely in custom-made pouches, and the rest of her supplies carried around in a backpack, bearing her father's emblem that he used in his now long disbanded One Tabaxi merchant company. And while to the prying, knowing eye, her equipment suggested some level of competence in taking things from places that you're not supposed to be in, it also quite easily betrayed the fact that she didn't really belong here. Custom-made, clean, expensive, a juxtaposition of function and form. A bit like herself. Her plan was simple. The wager she had committed to would lead to an adventure of a scale that she was not equipped with to deal alone. Usually her targets were dusty basements and attics, abandoned, sometimes not entirely abandoned. At the first sign of danger, she'd be gone, but that wouldn't be an option here. Convincing anyone to go down into the Undermountain who didn't already want to go down would be impossible. She also certainly did not have the funds to hire people, even if she had wanted Maxwell to believe that she could match his investments coin for coin. So it was necessary to find people already wanting to go down. Quite a few days were spent lounging at the bar, sipping on drinks that didn't quite get close to what she was used to, eavesdropping where possible, observing the other patrons. On occasion, she would attempt to introduce herself to a group, but it usually didn't go anywhere useful. Most were here to observe, to bet, to laugh, not participate. Others were here to participate, however, didn't really look like they'd get far, or were just plain rude and obnoxious. On other occasions, the alcohol would blindside her, leading to long conversations with the barkeep and random patrons she only vaguely remembers. The alcohol-induced relaxation, however, did lift her spirits. Her worries about the wager made in a moment of hot-temperedness, replaced with pure excitement about what she was about to embark on. It would solve her financial worries, cement her place in the exclusive society of intrepid adventurers for generations to come, and show Maxwell that, well, it would show him something. She wasn't too picky about the message her success would send, just that there was one. The story about her wager was one she shared with anyone who asked, and with anyone who didn't ask or care to. About Maxwell Brethorn, who rested on the glory he had paid others to get for him, who was slaying great beasts after they were hunted for him, who has retrieved legendary treasures after his servants had found all the traps and removed all the danger. About how she pointed out his hypocrisy and, well, got roped into this contest. Whoever would return with the greatest treasure, the greatest story, in a year's time would get something of the other. Unfortunately, to match what he had put on the table, she had to wager pretty much everything she cared about. The museum she uses to display her own, as well as her father's conquest. Losing was not an option, but really, the thrill of it excited her more than most things have managed to do in recent times. She could have called Maxwell's wager stupid, glossed over it and ignored the buffoon, but here she was, and she was quite fine with it. It was this that eventually led her to talk to the mix of dwarves, minotaurs, and elves sitting at one of the tables, making conversation, and eventually agreeing that these are some people who look like they'll get somewhere.
All right then. Thank you everyone for the introductions. All right, so you can place your character's token at one of the tables at the Yawning Portal. You can pick whichever one you like. Yeah, for this morning, there's a bit of a calm, one could say, at the Yawning Portal. There has been some time since the last party descended. Perhaps it is a slow season, perhaps, there is something else. Maybe the world holds its breath, waiting for the next plunge to happen, so to speak. But yeah, there are certainly comings and goings. Normally, Durden serves people behind the counter as usual. The almost ever-present Bard Matrim 3 strings plays his 3-stringed lute to surprising effect, actually. He is quite skilled with so few strings, so to speak. The bouncer, Brock Bonebreaker, sits in a corner glaring at people, cracking his knuckles from time to time. The Shield Guardian, clad in the symbol and emblem of House Heartspark, whirs and clicks slowly as it seemingly surveys the room, but otherwise doesn't move. In her corner, Obaya Uday, the priestess of Wokin and an emissary of House Heartspark, sits carefully observing, seemingly waiting for business. Other patrons include, of course, Volothamp Gadam, the famed scholar, if one is to believe himself, sitting as he has done for the past few days in front of the fire, sipping something from a cup, writing furiously in a notebook. Yes, the tramp. Yeah, everyone seems to just take it easy. this one morning. And you see one or few eye glances being tossed over at you from time to time. Perhaps the rest of the patrons suspect that something is about to happen. As the party has gathered in the morning, Durnan will come up to your table. He has his customary rag thrown over one shoulder. His apron is on, although you can still see the gleaming chain links of the elven mithril chainmail that he wears underneath his clothes. So light and wispy it is that it doesn't seem to impede his movements at all. Durnan is a rather weathered and gruff-looking character. He is a seasoned fighter. That much is obvious for anyone observing him. And for someone who has battled his way through the Undermountain and come back alive, his skill is probably prodigious. But at this point, he approaches your table and looks upon your breakfast. All of this paid for in advance, of course, as is Durnan's wont. And then he will say, "So, correct me if I am wrong, but I do sense that there is something afoot here." He looks over the table. Maybe his eyes rest a little bit longer on Taerin, who is a character he has run afoul of before, certainly. Call me crazy, but it seems to me that there is a party forming here, yes? He pulls thoughtfully at one of his whiskers.
You certainly are a observant fellow, aren't you, my dear Bucky? I wouldn't go so far as to say that we're quite ready yet, because I do believe that all of us are aware of the dangers that await us, and while we are eager to set off, I'm sure there's always a certain amount of procrastination involved when you're faced with such grave danger.
Durnan smiles, a slanted smile, and says, "Oh, of course, I'm not here to hurry anyone along. I am merely here to ask if I should get my dear bouncer," he motions to Brock in the corner, ready to winch. He smiles again.
Beldas takes a quick glance over the table, grunts and says, "Yes, lad. I would assume we would go today."
Nods slowly and says, of course. As always, I do recommend to check your supplies before you go down there. You never know. And if you do need supplies, feel free to talk to me by the counter. And do tell me when you are ready to descend. I will make the blackboard ready for you. He smiles slightly.
Ah, yes, the blackboard, of course. Well, I, for one, have been prepared for quite some time. The question is, do we gain anything from waiting any longer? If the answer is uncertain or no, then I suppose it's time, is it not?
Beldas has had a while to gauge everyone here. And in his mind, there is a teetering seesaw of the more he waits, the less chance he has. But the less people he has, the more dangerous it will be. However, at this point, he has shifted to the point of, yes, he would really want to go now. And so says, as I said, we go today. Unless there are objections.
Taerin eases his body out of his chair he's sitting in and says, "I will need a few moments to retrieve my armaments, Beldas. It will not take long. You four can check your provisions, see if you need to acquisition anything from Durnan." I will return. And, he begins to shuffle out of the yawning portal.
Yorgos just raises his big tankard of ale to Taerin as Taerin leaves. You know, secretly or not so secretly, he's not hard to read, as he's pleased that Taerin has more armaments than he was currently wearing. Man's strength can often be seen by the armor he wears, as well understood.
Eleran will like pick up the somewhat small backpack that he has and his quiver that's underneath his chair, and will sling it on one shoulder and say, "Always ready."
Beldas is as Eleran does that. Beldas is kind of looking quite pointedly at the. I'm assuming you have a bow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, looking quite pointedly at it. You know, this is a stranger of sorts to him, but also a member of his party, and so he is struggling between the social graces of just asking, and kind of just blurts out, "Your bow, lad. Give it here."
Eleran will furrow his brow to Beldas and say, "For what purpose?"
To explain would take eons. It'd be better to show you.
Yeah, lifts one eyebrow and then takes the bow off with one hand, hands it over to Beldas.
Yes. You can see Beldas take up the bow, look down the shaft, and the string is taut. It's well made, and yet it could be made more. He quickly touches the holy symbol visible through the plate and starts sketching as what you could assume runes that appear on the bow while not touching it and glow for a moment before etching themselves into the bow. They don't glow anymore, but yet they're there. And as Beldas hands it back, Eleran feels as if this bow is not your mundane bow anymore. It has been blessed by Moradin and has become a +1 bow.
Very nice.
The dwarven runes glow faintly and scintillate up and along the bow.
Eleran will take his bow back and inspecting every inch of it as if he's known it for most of his life, and will say, "I suppose we shall see the effects soon."
Beldas would nod and say, "You say that the divine brought you here to me. It is only my wish that I see the divine I have protects you and all of us."
He will incline his head, accepting the gesture as it was.
The corner matron 3 strings tentatively plucks one of his strings, looking over to you, seemingly trying to find a tune.
There's an appropriate tune for this occasion, he's sure of it.
Yeah, exactly. He's just trying to... Durnan approaches once more and says, "Well then." So, he makes a gesture towards the big blackboard that is hanging like up and above the counter. You see fairly faint names in chalk written up there with different numbers and similar things next to them. Not quite sure what it means, or at least what what it signifies. Although Durnan is quick to educate you. He says, "So, what's your little party gonna be called then, hey? You gotta write it on the board, you see."
Name? I suppose we are engaging in an activity where being known for it would be very beneficial.
He points towards the blackboard. Well, there's a Hall of Fame, so if you want your name up there,
I
provide
do
you
like
with
the
a
sound
crown.
of that.
He winks.
Beldas sighs, drinks a bit, and says, Dernan, no doubt, lad, you've seen a lot of names up on that board.
He
Would it
nods.
not deem it worthy to give us a name, rather than us choosing ourselves?
He snorts. And then he says, well, if you're so inclined. He looks the party up and down. Pulls
Yorgos
his,
puffs his chest.
He walks back over, mumbling to himself, and then he starts writing on the blackboard.
They're fucked. Party of fuck.
They're fucked.
Fuck faces. There we go.
Dead before dawn.
The name he writes out. Actually, what is? Hang on, I need to, because this is a more of a Swedish colloquialism, I think, and I need to see. If it actually can be translated.
Dernan is Swedish.
Dernan is Swedish, confirmed.
That is lore.
Dernan's been alive for quite some time, so he can know Swedish if he wants.
He created the language.
Train. That's it's like thieves can't for the yawning portal.
Yeah.
He writes down the greenhorns.
Yes, I like this name. Horn in it, strong word.
There's a snort from Brock behind Yorgos as he starts working with the winch.
It does also imply an amateurish. It's not exactly a nice name, however, it does make it even more so sweet if we do succeed.
The name will soon be feared across all of. What all of it'll be feared across?
Where?
All of the yawning portal.
There's a woman on the table next over sort of looks over, frowning at this statement, but doesn't say anything else.
Beldas seems to sink even shorter into his seat than his stature allows, but for the first time in quite a long time, he hides a smile behind his tankard.
What is a name but a canvas to be written on?
Yes. Greenhorns, he says, standing up with the tankard.
I think that's the moment Taerin comes back. Shouting, greenhorn.
You're expecting his companion just surely stand with him.
Oh yes, we shall paint a portrait of success on the green canvas of the greenhorn.
Emeralds are green.
And valuable.
Everyone in the tavern is now looking at the party.
Oh yes, you look at us, for here you see the birth of greatness.
Yorgos considers for a moment if he could carry Snapping Branch while dancing on the edge of the portal.
Alright, guess.
A little bigger than a halfling, but...
Inheritance hammer.
I think Taerin stops mid-approach, looks from Yorgos to the chalkboard, like he squints at it. He looks over at Dernan. He looks back at Yorgos. He just sighs.
Dernan raises his voice and the tavern says, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we have new brave adventurers going down into the depths. The Greenhorns, ladies and gentlemen. He moves like a calloused hand in an arch before him towards you.
Yeah,
No,
looks around to all the people, raising his halberd, held high in pride at the name and the task at hand.
Let's hear 3 hoots for the new heroes of the Yawning Portal. and everyone dutifully hurrays and hoots at the party. And then he says, "Excellent! To celebrate, drinks are half price for the next hour." He winks at everyone. And there is somewhat of a stampede towards the bar.
I could get one before I go.
As people are shouting, there are quite the rush to get drinks. Durden starts serving. The half-orc bouncer has seemingly readied the winch. He looks at you.
Actually, really quickly, Jonas, how much would it cost to buy everyone a round or enough for the next hour?
Whoa. Well, I would... enough for the next hour might be pricey, but let me take a look.
I was gonna say.
Listen, what is the purpose of wealth if you cannot show it?
There you go.
Yes.
Sure.
This spindly companion has.
You're gonna have to rename us from greenhorns to water buffaloes because look at these fat cats here rolling around in cash.
Big whales.
You know, they'll remember the time that the
All the
greenhorns
ladies
went in.
call me beached whale.
Bringing adventures into Wales.
On you, the beached whales.
Fifth edition. Practice in making adventures, throw their money everywhere. You should buy. I mean, it's like if you want a really big one, it's like half a gold per patron, probably.
Looking here, looking for the correct table. I'm sure I saw it somewhere.
Going
Right.
portal menu.
Page 158 has food, drink, and lodging.
Yes,
Jonas, if that helps.
That's the one I'm looking for. Well, let's see here. A mug of ale is 4 copper, and now it's half price.
2 copper.
2 copper. My
Coppers.
God.
The drinks for everyone in here for the next hour. If they want.
Based on my own experience, that's 60 drinks. So you know,
60 drinks.
Per person, obviously.
Irish.
The
obviously.
Shield Guardian, it's like a really high tolerance.
He has a tap on the side of him. And he's...
Buy a day, of course, is a merchant. Probably buy all the ale and then sell it back at full price
Mhm.
for the next hour.
I don't think Darren would.
If only you'd be here to take advantage of that instead down there.
I will say if you have 10 gold, you will supply everyone with ale for more than an hour in here.
That is much cheaper than expected. Do it.
Gold is a lot of ale. I mean,
That's a lot of ale.
Just cut to like Snapping Branch needing to bum a gold piece off of one of us to get out of the fucking rec room.
10 gold is 1,000 copper.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2,000. Well, that's 200,000. I don't know.
500.
Okay.
500 mugs.
Look at how many. It's silver.
So you
Copper
don't
goes
have
in a
that
silver.
many bucks. Yeah.
This
my
taver's been
friends-
around for like 2 centuries. It's got a.
My friends, wealth is just a vessel of self-expression.
It's changed over the century. Alright, Brock, send me down. I can't.
Yes.
Yorgos nods. He does not understand what it means.
Yep.
But it sounds very good.
Eleran just lidlessly falls over.
just
the
gone.
edge, like, he can't take this anymore.
Just jumps.
Taerin's just like staring at like the chalkboard because he can't bear to look.
Yeah, he's just like walking backwards, like no, and then just like falls in.
It's gonna take 200 years and still Durnan calls him a greenhorn.
I made the wrong choices.
Brock uses a what seems to be a fouchard or similar to like hook the rope and like hang it inwards. He holds it up to the closest one in the party, which is Beldas.
All right, take it.
All right, you old geezer, it's time to go down, eh?
Eleran will put a shoulder on, like a hand on Beldas' shoulder and say, allow me. Like a warm smile.
Thank you.
Or me. You know.
Brock rolls his massive shoulders. I don't rightly care. Just one of you.
Sure. Lauren takes it, then let's find my Beldas.
All right. As the party is being lowered down one by one into the yawning portal, as it were, A cheer goes up from the collected patrons, everyone toasting your generosity and your luck, and everyone wishing you to return safely and with all your limbs intact. Burnham, seemingly, as you are lower down, seems to be taking bets.
Can I bet on myself?
Well, usually the party isn't allowed to place bets.
Insider trading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, we come back in 5 minutes.
I bet that snapping branch will die. Oops.
If we let them bet on themselves, they'll try to not die.
All right. Well then, in that case, you can copy your tokens.
My God! Are we even ready for this?
No.
I think it's
I
going
want to go back. I'm going home.
Take me
Sometime
back.
There was like a party that just went down there and waited for like a week and then came back up.
Just in like the entrance.
Yeah,
All right, copied.
but everyone
Alright,
knew.
you can place your token in the sandy room.
In the sandy room.
Level 1.
Sandy room. We have conquered one room of many to come.
Huzzah!
Victory! Let's return.
No foes upon this place.
We have searched one room. It is done.
He always remembers this place.
The trek down does take a while. The yawning portal above is like the hole you're lowered down through is quite deep. You can certainly see like the speck of light up there. That is the tavern, and it would perhaps be possible to climb the wall up yourself. But everyone also has to pay, of course, 1 gold piece to get lower down into the dungeon. That is the price that Durnan takes.
Alright.
Oh, be it.
Wow.
Who needs a gold piece after they've spent money at the tavern?
That's right.
Okay.
On the way down, you see that the masonry is quite uneven. There is like pits and grooves and slashes. There, obviously, a lot of things has gone up and down this this well over the years. There is blood and caked gore in places, bones sticking out from some of the crevasses and whatnot on the way down. And for the last 5 or 6 meters or so, the walls are adorned with many old shields, seemingly hung here, perhaps as memories or testaments to parties having gone down here before, succeeded or failed. It is hard to say. But in the end, you are all standing at the bottom of the well. The floor is sandy. You see like there's a lot of footprints and a disturbance for the sand. Here and there, maybe like an old boot sticks up from the sand. The shields do still adorn the walls around here, seemingly looming inwards, making the well get sort of a scaled appearance as you peer around. Apart from that, it is dark. And it is quiet as you gather yourselves down here. Now, who carries a light here and who has dark vision?
Well, let's sort this out. Everyone has dark vision except
I do not. I see. It is all dark. Just so dark.
as I get down here, Beldas will I suppose what are you wielding? Yorgos?
Halberd.
Yeah, Beldas will touch the halberd, the tip of it. And a light appears and will continue to stay there for at least an hour. It basically gives you a 20-foot bright light radius and dim light 20 beyond that. Beldas will ask you what color you'd like.
Green, because of green.
Green,
ones.
yes.
Red
And
for the
green
color.
it will be.
Green light. It shall be
Green
our
flame.
color.
The green light sheens down the weapon.
So that perhaps we can have like a tabard made or something that says green horn. Pair of horns like pointing out. Yes. In time.
So the light has been given. That's sorted that. Rahal, you asked us before to stop our sights. Do you still want us to turn that off, or do you want us to?
I have turned off sight on all of your tokens. Otherwise, there will be a catastrophe.
Okay.
It is difficult.